Hello again, everyone. You might have seen this deck before, but those of you who haven't, this is an NEH Fast Advanced deck with influence spent not on biotic labels, but on a whole bunch of gear check ice. And to reinforce that, we have Salem's Hospitality to snipe off your opponent's breaker. So you snipe their breakers, make sure they don't have the correct breaker to get through your ice. Then you start chaining Astro scripts and views behind said gear check ice. Sounds like a pretty strong concept, but I'm up against Valencia today, who now has an additional threat. You now must keep the breakers as well as the blackmails down. This is going to be a bad matchup for me. Not to mention that you might be running a Count Siphon. Pretty likely, given all the apocalypses and everything running around. So, really the only good move I have for my opening turn is to double ice HQ to defend against DDoS Siphon. And leave myself at risk of a medium or keyhole dig, but I do have Jackson, I do have CVS, and I do have an Archangel to short R&D, so I can allow him to get a single access. Now, during his turn, he he did not play his wild side that he injected. So I knew that he had a wild side in hand, but he chose to run my R&D and steal the build instead of installing the wild side, which was a mistake. I'm gonna punish him for that. Take a couple credits, defend R&D, and snipe the wild side. So he's forced to discard it, and I get to see his entire hand as well. He has I've had worse, Clot, Blackmail. Yeah, that's not the best hand to deal with. So he's still gonna get a lot of draw. He probably will find his wild side within two I've had worses, but more importantly, the Clot is gonna be really dangerous. So now I'm going to use Salem's to block Blackmail. And let's see what he has in his hand. He does have a blackmail. It's going in the bin. I see I've had worse. Clot, scavenge. So I should be able to score the agenda behind the remote. But no, he top decks the blackmail and tries to go for my agenda, except that it's not an agenda. It's a Jackson Howard. Haha, got you there. So I just wasted two of his blackmails. One was sniped by Salem's. The other one was wasted on a Jackson Howard behind a pop-up window. That's the most hilarious. And he tries to go for another factor of attack, but I get him again. That's an Archangel, it only costs 4 to res, and he's not going to keep his medium. He's going to get 1 access, but he's not going to snowball out of control. So this early game is actually going in my favor, even though he's up 2-0. Well, make that 3-0. He's getting really lucky on his single access pokes on R&D. And an Astro next up on R&D. Yeah, sadly, if you're playing as NEH, you tend to get flooded with agendas a lot because you're not running foods or future perfects. So, I'm too poor to score the Astro right now, and I'm surely not going to jam it behind the pop-up window. Or should I? I really think I should have tried to jam it there because I was so far behind. And he makes a very weird play. He installs a Parasite on the Archangel. That's not going to do very well. It's going to take a long time to take that Archangel down. So I'm not too concerned about it just yet. I draw into another Salem's, probably one that I reshuffle bank to R&D with Jackson Howard. So here I tried to bait him to remote one more time with the CVS, which was a mistake. I really should have dropped the Astro in there instead. If you're down 0-3 and you're looking on the perspective of the runner has to be thinking, hey, it's okay if I let him score an Astro. He'll go down to 2 credits, very vulnerable, and he's not going to win anytime soon. I really should have jammed the Astro in the remote. So that was a very bad call by me, not taking advantage of that scoring window. I know it's just a pop-up window, he could easily check, but he'd rather not res remote ice. So that was a mistake. That was definitely a mistake, looking in retrospect. So instead I find a pair campaign, and that's going to take up my scoring server because I can still make a new scoring server, hopefully with some end run ice this time, and I do want to protect my economy. Economy is quite important for resing ice, and I really do want to res ice. More importantly, I also want to be able to res the CBS that is in the pet campaign remote to deal with the parasite that is slowly but now surely ticking up. Now I have double Salem's. This should be interesting. The problem is I don't have a good gear check. My opponent made a very good move. Turn 1 install Corroder. That is huge. Run so many wraparounds, they're now blank. That wraparound in my hand is not going to be a gear check. I have no intention of installing it because I would never want to res it against a Corroder. And I can't really use Salem's here. If I want to use Salem's, I want to use it during a turn where I can ensure that I can score on the very next turn. If I use Salem's now, it's not going to be very useful. So here, this is good. Now I have a proper gear check in the Enigma. So now I'm just thinking of how to manage my hand. If I install the Enigma into a new remote to create a scoring remote, I'll be drawing an extra card from NEH, and I have to be forced to discard. I can't discard agendas It's too risky given that my opponent is on 3 points already, and I can't discard the SALEMS. I want the double SALEMS. So I will be fine with discarding the wraparound. I draw into a wraparound, that's fine, that's good. So I'm going to just click for a credit here, ditch the both wraparounds, which are now blank, and attempt to score the Astro next turn with double SALEMS. Double SALEMS is amazing. Your first SALEMS clears the hand of any gear checks, and you can use the second SALEMS to snipe any extra things in the hand that you don't want them to have. So I'm thinking of what to call for the first SALEMS here. The second SALEMS will usually be pretty obvious once you know what's in the hand. The first SALEMS is tricky. Now, I'm trying to score behind an Enigma, so a very likely target would be York, because he's shown the Mimic in his heap, and he has a Corroder on the board, so it's somewhat likely that he's running the Regas Anarch Breaker suite. York wouldn't be too bad a call, but that gives away the fact that there's an Enigma on the remote, so I do not want to call York or any Code Gate Breaker. Make sense? So now I have to decide between AI Breaker and Blackmail Recursion. Blackmail seems like a very bad card to call. There's only one left in his entire deck. The chance of him having won his last Blackmail is very low. The chance of him having a Deja Vu or same old thing, on the other hand, is actually quite high. So it would do me good to call one of those, or I could call an AI Breaker. But here I'm doubting he runs any AIs, so I'm not going to call that. As for the between Deja Vu and same old thing, I don't think he's running same old thing because it doesn't look like he has any events that are worth recurring, except for Blackmail itself. So I'm not going to call same old thing. So it's now between Deja Vu and Blackmail. Deja Vu seems like a pretty logical option given that he's running injects, but he hasn't shown any of them yet. And, well, clearing the third Blackmail isn't the worst. And given that he's running Trope, he probably isn't running any other form of recursion. So after a long and hard ponder, I think I decide to go for Blackmail here. It's a very, very tough call given only this limited information in his archives, but I choose to call Blackmail, and he reveals. What does he reveal? Clock, Turntable, Faust, Spoon, Faust. Well, that's easy. Second SALEMS is on Faust. He loses both copies of Faust. So that's huge. No recursion in his hand, and all the Faust in the bin. Astro goes in the remote straight away. He has no Blackmail, no Faust. That's good. And most importantly, I do not reveal the fact that it's an Enigma on the remote. It could be any ice. Probably not a barrier, but any other gear check ice is fair game. So, what's he gonna do? He's gonna draw. Has he found his solution? Yes, he has. He found the third Blackmail. Bloody hell! It's so annoying. Wildside is so good, huh? Allows you to recover from that one SALEMS turn with 4 clicks and an extra draw. He gets the Blackmail and gets my Astro for game point. Well, Blackmail is finite, so I'm gonna slip the second Astro behind that remote anyway. And at the same time, purge the Parasite. So now the Parasite begins to tick up slowly but surely again. But yeah, that Parasite is basically useless. He has to wait so long for the path to R&D to be cleared. Yeah, Archer is in my hand. It's not a gear check yet. I do not have a breaking news squad, which is really annoying. So when I did start my turn this turn and I drew into the breaking news, I told myself, well, I have to score it here so that I can defend the correct server if he decides to assault something. I need to be able to defend with Archer, and hitting him with Archer right now would really hurt a lot. Kill his recursion in Trope and kill the Corroder. That's huge. So positioning the Archer in a good place would be very important and one of my priorities here. He's letting my double pack campaign go, which is really good, allowing me to actually safely score agendas like this and still have enough money to rest ice. Problem is, he's now going for HQ. And this is going to lose me the game. 50% chance of him hitting an agenda to win the game, and I can't keep him out. The wraparound's useless, because he can negate it with a bad pup. So I'll have to rest the Swordsman here, hope he doesn't hit the 50%, and hope that the 1 net damage deters him from running again. He hits my Jackson, trashes it. I don't think he'll run again, but I really don't like the fact that I have to rest Swordsman right now when he's running Faust, and there's no Faust installed. But he goes for HQ again and misses both my agendas, but he does hit Archer. That means that now he knows for sure that there is an Archer in the game, and it's active right now. Well, but the game still continues. He didn't hit my NAPD or my BU, so that's something. That's something, I guess. I'm gonna further protect the Astro script. Hopefully bait him into a run on the remote. Not a Blackmail run, hopefully, but a regular run, and hopefully I can trash some of his stuff. Ideally, he'll be installing files before running my remote. Oh, never mind, he's running David as well. Well, that's not good. Make things worse, he's gonna spoon my R&D. So he's attacking my R&D instead. Is he gonna luck sack? Nope, he's not gonna luck sack for that agenda. Sweet Sweep. I need to draw for ice at this point, and I find the hive that's going straight on R&D. I haven't actually scored many agendas yet, so that hive is going to do some work. Sure, he has the answer in Corroder, but at least hive will really slow him down. That's 5 credits per run. So that's another good thing about not scoring the Astro that early. It's still sitting there safely in the remote, just chilling out, hanging out with a martini in hand and waiting for the trip to the moon, I guess. Well, I'm going to further fortify R&D at this point. He doesn't seem interested in contesting my remote at all, so I'm going to keep it that way. Unfortunately, I'm starting to become really agenda flooded here. A HQ run at this point wins him the game. I can only hope that the Swordsman is enough deterrent at this point. He didn't reshuffle his Mimic back in, so I think HQ is very unpalatable because of that. He has no solution to the Swordsman aside from Parasite and Mimic, and he doesn't seem to have found his Parasite yet. So he's going to get some money. And at this point, I'm probably thinking, hey, you need to win the game, go score that Astro. So, Sansan, tricky. He does have Polop installed. Polop is pretty useless against NBN. And yep, I'm just going to score the Astro here. Alright. I could actually place pressure on him by installing the Sansan and double advancing the remote to score the Astro with the Sansan and force him to trash the Sansan, but that's probably not worth it. He might have found blackmail by now. So, pop-up window, I'm gonna tax him out, and the hive is now slightly less useful, but hopefully taxing enough to really slow him down. 2 cards, no dice. And I think he goes in here for yet another run to see 1 extra card. Again, no dice. So, if you're me here, what would you do? That's a tough question. You're getting R&D locked. You have to hope that R&D doesn't lead the next agenda. And it shouldn't, because most of your agendas are in hand. You actually have enough agendas in hand to win the game. The problem is, how are you going to churn them out? He has all the answers, except for a Code Gate Breaker. And you draw into a fast track, if that helps. So what would you do here? How would you attempt to win the game? You need to try to win the game now, before he completely just runs over your R&D with medium. You could purge, but that just slows down your loss. So what I'm thinking here is to bait him into running my remote while he has fewer than 4 credits, so that he cannot steal the NAPD. Something like install files, make a run on the remote, break my Archer, break my Enigma. Oh wait, you don't have enough credits to steal my NAPD, you can't steal it. So that's my rationale here. However, it's really tough against Valencia, right? Not only does she have the bad pup, it means that your NAPD can only be scored at 5 advancements. So really, my only choice here is to install advance with a Sansan on it, so I can fast advance it next turn without using the Astro token. So, how's he gonna deal with this? Let's find out. Liberator accounts and a blackmail. What do you expect me to do? This is just a bad matchup. It's so hard for me to keep him out of my remote because he can just ignore my ice. As fun as this deck is, unfortunately, it has quite a lot of weaknesses, and I think this game manages to illustrate a lot of them. Your scoring windows are so narrow. You have to have the SALEMS set up, and once you do, you have 1 turn to execute your scoring, otherwise they draw their solution. And even then, you are so vulnerable to them just top decking the blackmail off the deck and ruining your day anyway, as was the case with my first Astro. I mean, I really tried to do my best, baiting him into the pop-up window, into Jackson. That wasted the blackmail, that was so good. Just couldn't follow up. Maybe I should have just played more aggressively there, because this deck really cannot survive late game. Hive is a useless piece of ice late game, and they probably have found their answer for Archer and all your other ice by the time late game rolls around. I mean, after all, this is a gear check deck, and gear check decks are never meant to go late, so I was asking for it. It doesn't help that when you're up against runners with multiple outs for breaking your ice or getting past them, you're pretty screwed. Blackmail Val is bad. They have Fouls, they have Corroder, they have Blackmail. 3 different ways to get past wraparound. Your Salems can only hit so many of them. But the same can be said for other matchups, be it Clone Chip SMC Shaper or Special Order and Inside Job Crim. It's just very difficult to keep the runner out with only a couple of Salems that you rely on drawing. So yeah, this deck won't always work, but hey, it was fun while it lasted. Thanks for watching, happy net running. See you around.